In today's episode, we're talking about Lauren and Dickason. We can all agree that the whole quarantine thing wasn't fun, aside from the endless naps and banana bread. But like the not having anything to do for weeks on end, yeah, that was tiring. And for those who were in quarantine with other people, there's that whole element of getting annoyed by spending so much time around each other. But would the struggles of quarantine drive Lauren Ann Dickason to execute her own children? One September night in 2021 in Christchurch, New Zealand, a woman heard a loud bang that sounded like a door slam. After that, they heard the sounds of someone crying and moaning. Looking outside, the woman saw a man wandering around the street. He was sobbing hysterically. Another neighbor heard this man as well, and when she asked the man if he was okay, he didn't answer. All he could do was say, "Is this really happening?" Freaked out, one of the neighbors phoned the police. The police rushed to the scene immediately. The man was Graham Dickason, an orthopedic surgeon who just moved to New Zealand from South Africa with his wife and 3 kids. The reason he was screaming? He'd just found the lifeless bodies of his 3 children in his home, and his wife was unresponsive. When the paramedics finally arrived, they attempted to resuscitate the little girls, but it was too late. They pronounced 6-year-old Leanne and her 2-year-old little twin sisters, Carla and Maya, deceased. The cause was fairly simple to figure out, considering there were cable ties around the little girls' necks. 40-year-old mother Lauren Dickason was also found in the home along with her 3 daughters. She was still alive, but needed medical attention as soon as possible, so first responders rushed her to the hospital. And at some point, the cops started speculating about who could have done this horrible act. Lauren was the only other person there, and she didn't have any major injuries, so it seemed like Lauren might be the most logical answer. On the other hand, what mother would do something so horrible to their children? But again, there was no other suspects or witnesses at the scene of the crime. After looking into it more, the cops were like, yeah, Lauren definitely did it. And within the next day, Lauren was arrested and charged with the crimes. This came as a huge shock to Lauren's husband, her family, friends, and acquaintances. She didn't seem like the type of person to commit such heinous acts, especially against her own children. One of Lauren's old neighbors said in an interview, "I cannot comprehend what happened." Another neighbor remarked this story didn't add up because Lauren and Graham loved their daughters so much. They absolutely adored the girls. They were so grateful because they struggled to get pregnant, and when they finally got them, they loved them, she said. But the authorities were very firm in their belief that Lauren was responsible. They publicly stated that they were not pursuing any other suspects. So why did Lauren do what she did? There's not any information about how Lauren and Graham met, but I suspect it was through their mutual profession as doctors. And once they met, fell in love, and got married, it was time to try for children. This process was very difficult for them, and they struggled to get pregnant for quite some time. So when they got pregnant for the first time about 9 years into their marriage, you can imagine that it was such a beautiful and exciting moment. And then to get pregnant again with twins was truly a miracle. But Lauren and Graham wanted kids so badly, and their dreams were finally coming true. They loved their daughters so hard and so well. Unfortunately, one of the girls was born with a disfigured lip, which required surgery. According to a family friend, this caused a lot of stress for Lauren, and rightfully so. Surgery on babies is super scary. And it's unclear if Lauren suffered from postpartum depression, but we'll talk about that a little later on. Now, Lauren and Graham originally lived in South Africa, but a few weeks before the incident, they relocated to New Zealand. The reason for the move was that Graham took a new job as an orthopedic surgeon at Timaru Hospital. And Lauren was a hospital doctor herself, but from what I gathered, she left her job in South Africa and didn't have one set up in New Zealand just yet. Okay, so before the move, Lauren shared a Facebook post that said, "I am bent but not broken. I am sad but not hopeless. I'm tired but not lifeless. I'm scared but not powerless. I have wanted to give up but did not. How do you get it right, many people ask. My answer remains the same, because the Lord gives me strength to stand up. And in another post Lauren shared about mental illness, she emphasized this sentence: unfortunately, we live in a world where if you break a bone, everyone comes to sign the cast. But if you tell people you're depressed, they run the other way. However, the Dickason's babysitter from South Africa mentioned that Lauren was super pumped about the move. Anyway, when the family first arrived in New Zealand, they stayed at a hotel for a mandatory 2-week quarantine. So Lauren and Graham were cooped up in a hotel room with twin toddlers and a 6-year-old in a new country on a new continent. That's a lot of change. On top of that, 5 people in a hotel room seems pretty tight, and kids that age can be overwhelming. So with no outside help, I'm sure Lauren and Graham were spent. During this period though, Lauren was posting on Facebook and seemed excited about their move. She asked her friends for school suggestions for her daughters and even furniture stores for their new home. But we all know everything isn't as it seems on social media. One of the hospital employees actually spoke to the media about how horrific the quarantine process is. The immigration process is extremely traumatic. I understand the place where the Dickasons had to spend their quarantine was basically like a prison. You don't see anyone, your food is delivered to your door, and you're only let out for about an hour a day. To make matters worse, Lauren wasn't on her regular medication either. It's unclear what disorder or illness Lauren struggled with, but reports mention her taking chronic medication. Apparently, medication like that can get in the way of the immigration process, which is why she stopped. So that's another factor that could lead Lauren to do the unthinkable. First of all, if she's struggling with a mental illness that requires medication, she most likely has a chemical imbalance in her brain. And if she's been taking medication regularly for years and all of a sudden cuts it off cold turkey, we're dealing with both withdrawals and messing with that brain imbalance. To me, that would explain the story everyone was telling about Lauren, that she was such a sweet, kind mother who would never hurt her kids. But if she was struggling with mental illness, withdrawals, and overall stress from the move and quarantine, that could explain things a bit better. Note how I said explain, not justify. I think what Lauren did is despicable, to say the least. I'm just trying to theorize some answers for us all. After their 2 weeks in hotel jail were up, the Dickasons moved into a place near the hospital. It was part of a housing program for doctors and medical professionals, so it seemed like a pretty sweet setup. One parenting journalist who commented on the case brought up a good point. She said the act of killing or wanting to kill our own children should never be excused or normalized. But what about the red flags paving the way to tragedy? The more we as mothers talk about our darkest and most shameful experiences, the more we see we're not alone, and the better the chance at intervention before tragedy strikes. While legally unconfirmed, most people assume Lauren suffered a postpartum-induced psychotic episode which led her to slay her children. I don't love using this word, but it's honestly the most comforting explanation. Nobody wants to hear that this woman offed her children just because they were on her nerves or that she was just a cruel person. And no matter the reason, we can't go back and change what happened. Here are the latest updates on this case. Lauren was stabilized at the hospital and subsequently sent to a mental health facility. She appeared in court to hear the charges made against her, and she entered no plea. Until her next court date, Lauren will remain in police custody at a secure mental health unit. Graham has since moved back to South Africa and publicly forgave his wife in a letter he read at his daughter's vigil. Yeah, I was shocked to hear that too. He said, "My faith in humanity has been restored. I thank you all. In this time of terrible tragedy and adversity, I can only ask for prayer for myself, my family, and my friends. Prayer for strength and for healing. For the people touched and affected by this, look after yourselves, look after your wives, after your husbands, your partners, look after your children. Please also pray for my lovely Lauren, as I honestly believe that she's a victim of this tragedy as well. People that know her well will testify to that, I have no doubt. I've already forgiven her, and I urge you in your own time to do the same. He closed out the letter by saying, "We have been blessed with love and support. My faith in humanity has been restored. I thank you all." Well, I'm glad Graham was able to find peace in light of the situation, but I don't know if I would have faith in humanity after losing my 3 daughters like that. Obviously, everyone processes things differently, and I hope to never be in his shoes, but I'm honestly impressed by how he's handling everything. What do you think? Why do you think Lauren did what she did? Would you be able to forgive her like Graham? And if you hear of any updates about this ongoing case, please let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Brandi. See you next time on Killer Bites.